Andrea and Erik, for having me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hariesh Manaadiar. I'm the founder of Shipping and Freight Resource, which I have been authoring for the past 18 years, sorry, 16 years. And I have been in the industry for over 35 years in different fields, having handled different types of shipping, including documentation, operations, sales, commercial. Um, right now, I'm focusing a lot on digitalization of the industry, and I'm working closely with several organizations, namely the ICC, for example, on their Digital Standards Initiative. I'm part of the working group for their KTDDE, which is Key Trade Document and Data Elements, where we have standardized about 36 of the most common shipping documents that are used in trade. Those 36 documents could be exchanged among 50 partners at the moment for a single shipment. And at the moment, most of it is done manually and on paper. As per some of the statistics given by DCSA, for example, when is about 45 to 50 million bills of lading are issued every year globally across all shipping lines. And as of 2021, there was only a 1.2% electronic bill of lading usage. And that number has grown to 3.8% in 2023, end of 2023. Although it's double the number, the volume is still relatively small. There is a big push from many companies, many organizations, many individuals like myself, like Andrea, to popularize the adoption of digitalization, to push people towards digitalizing the documentation. And it is coming along, but it still needs a lot of impetus, needs a lot of push um, from some of the main stakeholders, which would then, I think, increase the success.
So who are these main stakeholders that are keeping the rest of us back? To say it politely and bluntly.
I wouldn't say keeping us. I think it has to do with still a lot of awareness, because our industry is steeped in tradition. I mean, the bills of lading in its current form has been there around for centuries.
Mhm.
So it is, I think, a well tried and tested document which has all the components required. So there is no real and immediate need to change the information, but just the way in which it is transmitted. So some of the blockers, I would say, or barriers to adoption is coming from shippers sometimes from banks, sometimes from um, customs in certain countries. But it all depends on how the message is received. The awareness that we are creating, the awareness that we are trying to create, must be received, because, as I said, because it is a tried and tested method, there is no immediate um, urgency for anybody to change it quickly, to say, this, I'm having so many problems, so we need to change it.
Mhm.
So COVID, um, while it was a bad situation for the world in general, was a good situation for digitalization and to showcase what happens if we still dependent on paper. Um, there were several areas or several issues where customers could not get their goods in time because they could not receive the paper document, they could not hand over paper document, they could not endorse paper documents. Whereas if it was all in a digital state, it would have been better. But as I said, the industry has made a lot of progress in it. At the moment, there are 12 electronic bill of lading service providers approved by the PNI clubs. So that is not an issue anymore in terms of insurance coverage and things like that. But again, not everybody understands the need for a PNI cover or understands the need for insurance. Some of them don't even take insurance. And also, the exchanges are still happening manually. So those are some areas where we need to create more awareness. For me, the key aspect is still awareness, and also some of the stakeholders are uh, using the law as an issue. because the paper law has been around for many years as well, and the electronic law has been signed. It's called the Model Law on Electronic Transferable Records, which is driven by UNCITRAL,
Mhm.
but that has not been adopted by
Every
many
country.
countries. In fact,
Mhm.
there's 8 countries so far that have adopted it, and even those who have adopted has not fully and exactly adopted the whole thing. Some of them
Right.
are compliant, and out of the 8, only UK is probably the biggest, then followed by France and Singapore. Germany is still working on it. USA is working on it in a different format. India is working on it in a different format. But because more close to about 80% of the global trade is done in English law, we
Mhm.
hope that by UK adopting it, the MLETR, other countries will
Only
be able
last
to.
year, right? So you
Yes, it
mentioned
was in
centuries
2023.
of documentation. We only, or the UK only implemented uh, in their laws last year. So yeah, it's pretty fresh.
Correct. So the people are still understanding the implications of that. They're still getting to know that. Um, So in terms of Africa, in terms of South Africa especially, I'm working closely with some of the banks to promote that, and also see how we can create awareness within the companies, and to start utilizing electronic trade documentation. The MLETR has not been adopted by South Africa yet, and none of the African countries are even close to it. But there are some discussions going on. There is some awareness. Um, I think it also follows a lot of interest, because if you see the engagements by many of the organizations, a lot of it is happening outside of Africa. Asia and Europe are leading the pack in terms of this adoption, and therefore there is a lot of interest in pushing that side. Africa is still waiting in the wings, and I'm sure the continent will get there, especially now because we have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is taken off in a sort of a big way. Countries like Rwanda, Kenya, Ghana, Guinea have already done some trade between themselves using the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. South Africa jumped on the bandwagon, I think, early this year or late last year. I think it was early this year. So the activities are happening, and I think there has been good progress on that. So we look forward to getting more traction out of this, and of course through discussions like this, and through the discussions of the European Blockchain Association and things like that, we are trying to create more awareness.
It seems
And
that,
there's a question. Go ahead, Andrea.
oh, sorry, didn't want to interrupt you. It seems that there are two approaches. One is the UK/Singapore approach to visualization of trade, and then came France second. My gut feeling is that instead of creating a collaborative playground, there is some friction yet between the two approaches. Um, Trade is global, so you have to seek for collaboration in differences, of course. How do you see this coming up? We have France taking second spot and UK. Seems like two worlds colliding. What's your take on this going forward, civilization process? Yes. Do you see any danger and any opportunity? What could be done next instead of competition in terms of collaboration between the two?
Well, in that aspect, as I said, I was just saying earlier, a lot of the stakeholders are using the law as I would say, as an excuse, because you don't really need specific law, this MLETR, for example, because all the contracts and discussions are on done on a private basis. Unless you're doing work for the government, by the government, and with the government, then it's a different story. But if you and I are shipping goods, it's a private agreement. If we have a private agreement, a legal agreement, for that matter, to uh, to endow all the rights of a paper document on an electronic document, there's nothing that is preventing us from doing that and carrying on our work using electronic trade documentation. Of course, there
Unless
are
if something
some,
goes wrong and it does go to court, right? But to your
yeah,
point, if it
yes,
doesn't go
but
wrong,
even if
you
it
don't
is
need to.
even if it is going to court, we did sign a legal agreement
Mhm.
between the two parties to say yes, we will assign the rights, responsibilities, and liabilities same as the paper document. So it can still be handled like it would like you would handle a paper document claim. Even if we ship you and I ship it in a paper document and something goes wrong, you go to court. Court will look at it at the same way, or should look at it at the same way based on that agreement. But that there's some gray areas in that. There's some confusion around that. It's not to say that nothing will happen. This is shipping; anything can happen. So that could be one area. And another area which is also an issue is interoperability. Although the systems are there, everybody right now needs to be on the same system. For example, if you're using one of the EBL service providers, everybody needs to be on the same EBL service with the service provider in order to make that quick. Because system to system, peer-to-peer systems have been tested, but it is not yet mainstream. It has been tested successfully, but it is not yet mainstream, and it has not been adopted by everybody, everybody within that 12. So that is also a cause for concern, but that I'm pretty sure in the very near future that will be solved. And once that is solved, then there really is no excuse not to use, because um, previously we could only send messages between Windows devices or Apple devices. Now you can send anything to anywhere to anybody. So it's a matter of time. So to Andrea's point, whether UK law or French law or Chinese law, the the tools are there. Everybody has the tools. The standardization of documents, that is one of the main things of the likes of, say, DCSA or BIMCO or ICC DSI. They've all done the standards. DCSA from the containers shipment, they've done the container bill of lading standards. BIMCO has done the same for bulk bill of lading standards. So there is standardization in everything at the moment. The only thing that is the interpretation of the law and the adoption of the law. Because even if you take any law, it's also interpreted differently in different countries. I mean, if you take a straight bill of lading uh, under English law, it's interpreted differently in the US as compared to China, as compared to UK, as compared to India. So it so this is going to be a little longer or a lengthy process. The legal side of it is going to be a lengthy process, and if we wait for the 200 plus countries in the world to adopt or to sign up to that law, it's not going to happen.
I mean, you mentioned standardization. I used to dabble in standards at ISO, and the big joke and my world was blockchain. Is blockchain one word or two? And it took them 2 years to decide if blockchain was one word or two, right? So yes,
Yeah.
standardization is a very long process.
Yeah, but as I said, standardization, at least I would think, has been achieved in this scope of things with the bills of lading earlier, and now with all the trade documentation. So, for example, the KTDDE has the standard elements required in a commercial invoice. So as long as those elements are there in the commercial invoice, it doesn't matter which format or what look you send the commercial invoice. It can be horizontal, it can be vertical, doesn't matter. As long as that information is there, and you can convert that information to data. So that is what the strength is of the standardizations.
Mhm.
So you mentioned in Hariesh, the key trade document issued by the ICC DSI. I remember I was in London last spring. It was around the end of April, attending the commodities week, and I met Pamela Marbanoli there, presenting Stefan Waltz, if I quite remember. The first about the document. Um, can you, now, after a few months, DSI has issued the second thought, focusing on use cases and case studies. Can you tell us more about this? I mean, the purpose, what's going to be the outcome, the expected outcome, and of course, between the use cases, what do you estimate to be the most impactful, the most likely to be successful in the future? It's a personal opinion, of course.
Yeah, so they issued this document with 22 use cases. It covers a
Yeah.
wide range. There's banks there, there's tech companies, there's shippers, there's a wide range. So the reason for that was to showcase that this is not just you know this is not just verbal diarrhea, sort of. It is actual stuff that is happening. This is this is not a organization or a group of people or a group of organizations talking about it only. We've actually made it happen, and it can be implemented in real life, and it has been implemented in real life successfully. And there's no so it is sort of encouraging everybody to look at it, read it, understand it, and of course, if there are anything to question it, and see how it can be implemented within your own organization, because unless people start using it, they will not know the real result of it, because each business is unique, each industry is unique, each shipment can be unique. So while it is designed as a standard, there could be some nuances that have not been looked at, or that have not been seen, that have not been realized, because every shipment is different. So unless somebody decides, okay, I want to try it, and you're not going to get anywhere. So this case study, the release of this case study compilation is an attempt to see how we can push adoption, because I'm part of the task force now, maintenance task force, who are also looking at adopting this and improving the adoption of these KTTDE and the standards, because we've done a lot of work, and other organizations have also collaborated. So it is good that we now use that work and to show the industry that there are benefits to it. So this case study report was for that.
And where can people access these case studies for
Yeah.
inspiration?
Yes, everybody can. In fact, I wrote about it yesterday or day before, I think, on Monday, I think. I wrote about it and published some of the case studies and gave some examples there as well. So everybody's doing their bit for that. The companies that are involved in that, the organizations involved in that, the people that were involved as part of KTTD, all of them are doing it, and Andrea has also promoted it. So it again, it is not just a case of awareness, it's a case of now um, pushing people or companies to adopt it actively.
I want to be, I want to act actually. There was the term in, I guess. So, and again, I'm calling on your personal opinion, personal experience. Um, I've read, I've heard that visualization is still very slow at different levels. Even think of the UIDT, the Universal Rules for Digital Trade Transaction. They're still in the weeds, so not utilized yet. No real transaction being based on that new set of rules. What can be done to push the industry to adopt this new technology, these new frameworks? Let's call it want. What's hindering adoption in your opinion? And subsequently, what can be done to go beyond these rules?
For me, I would still say awareness, because cost is no longer an issue. The cost is quite affordable, I would say, compared to what it is currently. Even if in cases it is slightly higher than what it is with paper documents, the safety and security and the speed of the transmission of documents is unmatched. You cannot have that. Which can have other benefits within your trade itself. Your trade can get quicker. Of course, the goods won't travel any faster, but your documentation will be done in time. You can avoid a lot of cost, because a lot of the cases customers on the other side are waiting for documents. Sometimes the ship arrives before the documents. So those kind of things will can be avoided, especially in bulk, because in containers, at least you can offload a container and leave. But in bulk, you can't do that. You can't discharge without the documentation. So I would say from an aspect of pushing what more, I think awareness is one issue, because even at least if it was cost, you can say okay, because I know some of the EBL service providers, for example, are offering this services free for a certain period of time, because they want to also push the adoption of it. So it's not a question of cost. It's still a question of awareness, and I think the carriers are on board. Some of the shippers are on board, but only the big names. And I think it is still a question of awareness at a country level, because I was speaking to some of the customers here locally in South Africa, and some of them have not even heard about it. So they felt a little bit surprised when they said, when I told them, okay, these options are available. They were quite keen to explore it. But of course, um, with anything new, to try anything new, there is a level of hesitancy. So if it comes from well-known figures, well-known people in the industry, I think that could make a lot of difference. Like if you are speaking to some of the other experts in the industry and they all speak the same language, that is something that could help within the country, or within certain cities, or within certain ports.
Nice. Um, yeah. I mean, Erik, would you like to add anything to this?
Nothing from my side, but as I wrote
No.
in one of my previous articles, there has been, I'm seeing a resurgence in blockchain, and in terms of use cases with the related to electronic trade documentation. And I think if that momentum is kept going, there will be more benefits to the industry. Yes, of course, at one stage blockchain was a swear word. Nobody wanted to hear it. They were running miles. But I think it's making a slow return. But it also depends on how we can simplify the communication to the customers. That is one, to Andrea's previous point, that is one thing that we definitely need to do, especially from a tech perspective. If you look at some of the tech people, when they put out information or documentation or information on LinkedIn or anywhere, it is so loaded with jargon and terminology. Nobody understands that, how it actually works. Nobody understands that. We really need to um, create that kind of awareness, and that is what I'm trying to do through my site. And I'm trying to make it as simple and easy to understand as possible, so people can move away from that fear of the unknown and enter into, okay, at least a stage where they can say, fine, I understand at least now what this means. Let me try it out. Let me test it. That is the first step.
Which is exactly what we do too, right? We try to bring it down to our
Yeah.
industry's discussion points, our industry language. Never mind the ZK proof technology and all those things. Uh, I don't get that, right? Let the cryptographers deal with the tech and the IT people and the developers deal with the
Yes. At
technology
the
side of
back end,
things.
they'll let them deal with that language. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They can have fun with their language. Let's bring it on to our language, our industry language for sure. So
Yeah.
where and Andrea kind of touched on this a bit earlier, and you touched on it a bit too. Um, we still need to bring awareness to our folks. Um, how can we build trust as well, right? Goes back to the very beginning of our conversation, a physical paper, I trust that I have the information in front of me, right? I trust that I can see the blue signature on a document because it's signed with blue ink, right? I trust it because I've been using it for years and decades and centuries. How can we build trust with an electronic transmission? How can we build trust that, or how can the bank trust that documentation has been sent correctly and hasn't been altered? How do we continue to build trust around this digitization?
It is still a matter of time
Mm-hmm.
because banks used to want to see a check before they give money. Now
Mm-hmm.
they're giving money on a two-factor authentication or on a digital authentication.
The
So
press of a
the
button,
that
right?
yes, so that process is already in place. So this is similar to it. So it's not just the banks. In my personal view and experience, it's not the banks that are saying that we don't want it or we can't handle it. No, it's the reluctance from the shippers, as you said.
Mhm.
They're used to seeing a piece of paper that gives them comfort, the bluing gives them comfort, the red stamp gives them comfort, the revenue stamp on top of the bill of lading gives them comfort. So that needs to change slightly, and to to those shippers also we must create that awareness. Like exactly as I said previously, you needed to give a physical check to a carrier for them to release payment. Now you're doing electronically, or in between you were doing electronically. Now there's a next step where you don't even do it electronically. You do it on a platform. You do a payment on a platform. Nobody sees anything. You don't need to go to your bank. You don't need to even connect to your bank. It goes through that platform. That platform tells the carrier, hey carrier, Eric has made a payment for this shipment, and that's it. And the carrier trusts it. They will see it, and so this is working the similar way. It's just replacing a paper with an electronic data. That's it. And plus now the also the awareness that needs to be created is that even if you take any of the electronic BL service providers, you can still get a physical copy or the printout, paper printout of the electronic bill of lading, right? It just doesn't have the original signature, but it will say it will come with a notation certified original or certified copy
Mhm.
of this bill of lading. It's got the date stamp, it's got the time stamp, it's got everything. Who's authenticated, who printed it, when they printed it, all that information is there. I mean that should be trust enough to see. You're seeing the document in an electronic format on your screen, and you're seeing it on a print paper document. It's the same thing. Of course, you can't do anything with this paper document because it's not negotiable. But other than that, everything else is the same. So fundamental for me, it is still the awareness.
Mm. Yeah.
Not everybody is seeing what I'm seeing. Not everybody has seen the process and understood the process and said, "Hey, this thing is easy, and we can do
Yeah.
it." If we can move from years and years of checks, at least some countries, US is still on checks, I think. But if you can move from years and years of checks to electronic payments, and like in countries like in India where you pay a local vegetable vendor on your phone, on their phone and your phone, UPIs,
Mm.
this can be done. And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, and with the enablement of tech companies, we will get there.
So you mentioned that you've been in logistics for about 30 years, which probably tells me that you started when you were 1 year old. Uh, Andrea and I are a bit older. Um, we've been
Exactly.
around. So it's a generational thing, right? So do you think that the next generation is, or your generation, or in the next generation is going to get it more and
I
accelerate the whole thing?
I um I think Andrea and I are the same age, in fact.
1972.
Okay, then I'm older than you. I'm 1969.
Yes,
Oh,
3 years nothing.
1968,
Just
1968. I'm the old guy.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the old guy, Mr. Old Guy.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
So yes, the younger generation is getting there, but the obviously younger generation comes with their own problems because there's a lot of tech around. But what I'm seeing is in some of the cases, the tech guys don't know shipping and
Hmm.
what happens in the background, what happens practically in shipping. So they need to catch up on that, and that is where I think guys like me act as a bridge between these two and try to educate both sides of the fence and see how we can promote these things quite seamlessly. But yes, there is a lot more. Um, Again, as I said, while COVID was bad for many things, it was very good for supply chain. It made supply chain a household name. Everybody knows supply chain. Everybody
Hmm.
and their dog is a supply chain expert now. They talk about it. They write about it. So it's a thing that has brought a lot of visibility to the industry and the way in which it is operating. So hopefully this mixture of both these will work to everyone's benefit.
And in
Yeah, can it
school, I
be
mean, I talk to students from time to time. They teach technology in school right now from a supply
almost?
chain perspective. They they,
Yes.
they talk about the ERPs and the TMSs and the WMSs, which is not something they used to talk about in school. So yes, there is hope for the new generation.
Yes, definitely.
Can be again provocative on a final note on my end. You mentioned a few things that caught my attention. As news, fintechs, things like this you mentioned. One of the things that struck me the most when the UIBT came out in 2022 was that it's no longer bank centric. And we know that you have to admit. Some troublesome hindrance in the ongoing digitalization process has to be laid on the banking side. And my thought has been always, hey, what don't we, it's always been those who are left behind nowadays for trade, which are the SMEs, basically, micro companies. Why don't we create parallel markets? Primarily, interest bank, they do take care of what they do now, which is large companies, things like that. My feeling, my gut feeling is that these new standards, new frameworks, they do represent a huge opportunity for fintech sector to step in and let global trade go for the next step in adoption, meaning that you take care of a certain market slide, let us take care of this one. Uh, how do you see this coming up in the future? Maybe can the fintech sector step into this void and fill it out? By doing so, starting to fill in the trade partners gap, which nowadays is a huge one. We're talking about trillions and trillions, and it's growing instead of decreasing. So, how do you see this? What's your take on this?
Well, the trade finance gap is obviously increasing. It's gone up to, I think now, $2.5 trillion. But even in the so for the banks also, what I've seen is and what I've read from the World Bank and other publications is that the regulated documentary credit part of things is only about 20% of the market. The rest 80% is on open account, and some of them don't use banks. They use their own methods of payment. So yes, as I said earlier as well, banks are not the issue. It is the customers and their understanding, and especially, I mean, you mentioned about SMEs. SMEs really don't know yet what they
Mhm.
can do or what is the benefits for them with electronic trade documentation. Because when you read any of the news items around the world, including mine, it all mostly relates to big names like a Vale doing this or a HSBC doing that or a Rio Tinto doing this. So it's all the big boys that are talking about it, big boys that are testing it and trying it out. So the SMEs probably are feeling also left out because they don't know, okay, maybe it is something that the big boys club does, and we can't compete in that, or we can't do this. So again, it all boils down to the question of awareness, how much we can push these guys, how much we can tell them, listen, guys, you need to do this, and you need to be, you have the opportunity to do that. So um, and also with some of the container shipping lines, for example, becoming integrated logistics service providers. They're doing the shipping, they're doing the forwarding, they're doing the clearing, they're doing the transportation. And if the freight rates go like this, like what it is now, maybe they'll also start funding you
Mhm.
as a customer. Then it could be even more easier because then they're doing everything together. They could start funding you and saying, okay, fine, you want to ship with us? Yes, fine. We will do the funding, we'll do the clearance, we'll do the forwarding, we'll do everything for you. So there are opportunities in every area, of course.
And we're seeing a lot of that consolidation of carriers and freight forwarders and
Yes,
service provider. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
Andrea, any thoughts?
No, I was trying to put on wrong. Sorry, guys, I'm getting old. No,
No,
these are
you're
more
not
my
old.
final
You're the
notes.
youngest here still.
I'm still, yeah, and I am the young, getting a lot. But yeah, from time to time, I get a feeling.
You are
Anyway,
the young
no.
Michelangelo.
Yeah, kind of, kind of. Doing another job though. So no, thank you, Hariesh. It was insightful. Even this time, it was great talking to you. Maybe you have more insights than the first time talking about you see this new loss of ACDDA.
Yeah.
So thanks for this.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you. Thank you for
thank you for the time
supporting.
and also for sharing some common thoughts. Yes, of course, it was nice. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for
Indeed.
working with the DSI, all the initiatives. We need more people like yourselves to get involved. It's enlightening. It's fun as well. So I would encourage anyone to get involved. Where can people go read your newsletter? I know that you publish on LinkedIn, but where else?
It's very simple. It is shipping and freight resource, one word, .com. Shipping and freight resource.com. All the information relating to myself and how to communicate with me, how to reach me, or you can Google me on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, that's the easiest way to reach me.
And we'll include that in our links as well.
Amazing.
Thank you.